All right. Welcome back to the Lost Beat 6 show. I'm your host, Steven. We're back from a hiatus of the summer after doing all the planet stuff. And with me, I got our partner in crime. We got Ryan Pressman here. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing equally doing. So we've taken the summer off, with the exception of me and Sean doing Beefer book clubs, which is fun, and we'll still do that over the weekend editions. So we'll try to like alternate weekend editions between beef sessions and Beefer book clubs, and just to kind of kick, it's still a chance for everybody to kind of get to know us as people. You do that with the normal podcast, but we're here. But this is the Monday shows, as they are here to talk about. And here we have discussions with people that we are interested in, people we like. We have a couple new things. We're gonna do another making the scene, which is what we kind of was our bread and butter the first part of the year, doing all the planets people and kind of building into the podcast and building into the kind of what the podcast is about. We're going to have one on, this is going to be loosely on the, it's not going to be as regimented. It'll probably be more sporadic as things come in as we do the pod. But we have, we're going to start one about the beat generation, which is kind of cool because, in more of a modern sense of the term, what that's going to be like. So we'll be sprinkling making the scene with the beats, which is going to be an interesting one, mainly because most of them are no longer with us and there are only a handful left. But we're talking to other people adjacent to that. Dennis McNally will be on the show in the coming weeks, who is the Kerouac biographer and Grateful Dead biographer, and that was a fun time talking to him. But anyway, so Ryan, when you want to help us introduce our guest this week?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very excited this week because we have Darren Korb on the show. Darren is a really talented composer who is probably best known for his work with Supergiant games. So, they did Bastion, they did Hades, and we had a pretty nice conversation with him. We talked a little bit of shop, about musical stuff. And then we just kind of got to know him a little bit on a personal level. And we got to sort of just chat with him a little bit and get into some interesting stuff and go to some strange places.
Yeah, it was a good time. And we had our friend Bobby, who's I call him our special insider, gamer insider, because he's actually with the video sound design, right? Am I mistaken?
Now he does voiceover stuff.
Okay, so he's
So
still
not
he's still in audio. He works in video game audio, but he'll have some insight on this. And I'm just a big fan of classic Greece, so that's my connection there. But yeah, so we had it was a good show, and thanks for being patient. There's not much as far as other news is concerned with with Lost Beat 6. The Denim Emperor is working on stuff. Please, we still have Psychedelic Space Beef Band, Beefin on the World. It's been out, so check that out. We'll have more things as we continue to do the show. So let's get to it.
Yeah, you lead us in. I'm not a good leader
All
inner.
right. Leader inner.
Leader inner, yeah.
I think that's
the real term. I think that's it.
Yeah, we're starting with that, leader inner. So I want to welcome our guest Darren Korb to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And we are also assisted by gamer insider Bobby Thayer.
Hey, it's been a while since I've been on here.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah.
And Ryan, who is our main, who's gonna help us. He's gonna be our what do you call it? What's that panelist word?
Moderator?
Moderator. Yeah, he's gonna moderate this whole conversation for us. So, welcome back, Ryan, and take it away.
Cool. Well, yeah, Darren, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you giving us your time. We've been wanting to talk to more people in the composer space. We've done that a couple times with Disaster Piece and Ryan Elder. Yeah. And thank you for coming on and adding to our list of illustrious guests.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, I guess we can just go ahead and kick it off because, I did a little bit of community outreach as well, and I was like, "What's the biggest Darren Korb related subreddit?" And it turns out it's Hades, the Hades subreddit, which makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And we put some questions there that we'll probably get to later. You know, we kind of did a greatest hits of that, and yeah. Well, on the topic of Hades, the thing is, Supergiant has put out, it's shown a lot of growth over the years, and they've made some really great games. But, what do you think made Hades, what do you think put it over the top as like such a huge smash hit?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question that I ask myself sometimes. I mean, I think one of the things for Hades that I think is a little bit different from each of our previous projects is, for the first 3 games, we really tried to make them all tried to reach out and experiment and try to like do stuff that we definitely hadn't done and really try to expand our comfort zone. I think from a design perspective and otherwise aesthetically and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like when we were going into Hades, we really wanted to take a lot of the knowledge that we had gained in our sort of different, like from each project, we learned a lot of different stuff working in these sort of on these different types of games. And I think one of the things we deliberately really wanted to do was to try to mine some of our best ideas that we'd come up with and try to see if we could put those to use in a synergistic sort of way. I think part of it, when anything is successful, I think a lot of it has to do with timing and luck and just like when it happens to come out, and a game about trying to escape hell over and over again coming out when everybody's stuck in their house, and it's all Groundhog Day for people like every day in their real lives. I think that probably had a little bit to do with it, is my guess. I mean, I think all the characters being real hot, people seem to like that a lot.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff about it. I mean, I feel like one of the things about it that is really, that I really like is that in spite of its sort of serious and grim setting, it really is uplifting and sort of lighthearted ultimately. And I really think that's something that is maybe a bit of a breath of fresh air for people in a time when everything else is grim. So,
Yeah, having finished Hades, yeah, no, I totally see what you mean because it starts out with the very rebellious teen getting away from his father, not understanding, but by the end, when you reach the end game, it's all about like understanding the people around you, learning why your father is the way that he is, and like seeing his side of it. So
yeah,
it's really great job narratively that you're able to have that sort of turnaround from having that naive rebellion and turning it into something where it's about understanding and empathy, and that's always a great theme to have in a game.
Awesome. Yeah, and a shout out to Greg Kasavin, our writer and creative director, for sort of sticking that landing in such a delightful way. I'm really pleased with how all that turned out. It was really a ton of fun to work on that aspect of this project. It was really delightful to do all the voiceover stuff and the narrative stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actually the sort of, I guess, emotional setting of things and how that's kind of tricky in game composition, because obviously when you're doing it for something like another visual media like film or something, the action plays out in a certain way, and as the composer by that point it's already set in stone how it's going to go. And when, especially in games like Hades that can take a lot of different turns in terms of the action, while they do have it does have an overarching narrative. How do you as a composer sort of not anticipate, but sort of prepare for like, all right, I need to make something intense, or I need to make something that matches like, I don't know what's going to happen in this person's playthrough experience. How do I sort of give them, an emotional, how do I match the emotional beats of what they might encounter?
Yeah, that's a great question for composing for games in general. I think I feel like it's the sort of critical difference between composing for games and other mediums, because it really is a medium where it is a non-linear interactive medium where you're applying this sort of linear by nature art form to it. So it's music only exists in time. It doesn't exist like a picture a still image can exist, outside of time, if that makes sense. So anyway, the not to get too esoteric, but so I think part of the consideration for how I handled that on Hades was trying to implement the music in a reactive way that would respond to the action of the game and what was happening in a particular player's playthrough. And also, one consideration is this is a game that people could play for potentially hundreds of hours. So to try to make the music stand up to repeated listens by varying up the way people hear the music. So one of the ways I try to solve for that is I have multiple stems for each piece of music, generally about 3. And there's this sort of guitar stem with all the guitar-like instruments, a bass stem with just the bass, and then a drum stem with drums, and then some synthesizers on it. And the way it works is whenever you enter a new chamber, when you're in a run, the drums kick on. In addition to either no other stems, just the bass, or the bass and guitar. And that's randomized for every single room. So every new room you get into, it's some different arrangement from the previous room. And when you kill the last enemy in that room, the drums turn off and you're left with either just the bass, or maybe this just chill for a second, or some combination of bass and guitar. So we tried to have the game react to what's happening in the player's playthrough by sort of the way we do that, those stem arrangements. And then also we have sort of section markers. So as you advance through a run, the piece will advance in intensity as your run sort of ramps up in intensity. So we have a few sections to each piece. We have a pretty mellow, kind of pulsing, kind of anticipatory section at the beginning of each piece. We have the proper sort of Mediterranean folk arrangement of the piece, which plays as you're fighting through the rooms. And then when you get to a mini boss or a boss, it kicks into the hard rock arrangement of that same piece to really amp up as the action of the game amps up. And then, if you are lucky enough to strike the death blow on the boss and pass the boss, then the piece will play its sort of ending tag and hopefully have a satisfying finish to the piece.
And that sounds like... I'm sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah. I was just about to ask if that was the loop. Is that per region? Like that happens in Tartarus and then it resets for Asphodel and things like that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So for each biome, we have a different sort of playlist for that particular biome. And in each biome in general, you'll go through 2 pieces of what I call biome music, which are pieces that are set up that way, that have that sort of those 3 sections. And so it'll sort of cycle through 2 of those, either 3 or 4 or 5 pieces. In the case of, I think Tartarus might have 5 or 4, I forget. Anyway, so it's either 3 or 4 pieces per biome. And so by the time you hear a particular piece again, it's like multiple playthroughs, hopefully like a couple of hours later.
Right. Cool.
I do have a question, and I'll be honest, I have not played the game, but I've seen people play it, and I was doing a little bit of prep work on this, but I grew up with a lot of Greek people and Greek music, and I have a love-hate relationship with like Greek folk tunes. I was touched by the sort of charmed in the rhythms and the bouzouki tones, and or I'm sure there were ouds or Anatolian instruments, but how much can you dive into a little bit of the research you did to prep for this? Like, was it a lot of ancient kind of sourcing, or was it more like medieval to modern sourcing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I did research into sort of ancient Greek music and stuff, and I'm glad I did the research, but it showed me like, well, this isn't really the thing that you associate with that region. It's like 5-note, very simple, like weird, like allos music, and then like a 5-string harp thing, and like that's it,
2 reeds and stuff.
Yeah. It's just so it's not quite the thing that I had in mind. And that necessarily evokes, like when people think of that part of the world or think of the sort of Mediterranean vibe, that's not what comes to mind now. So I wanted to try to reflect that musically, something that feels older but isn't necessarily actually ancient. So I use the primary textures I'm using are bouzouki. I'm using a lavta, which is a Turkish kind of like it's like kind of like an oud, but like it has frets, and yeah, it's very similar to like it's kind of like a Turkish lute almost. Okay. And then I'm using a balama, which is another Turkish instrument. And I spent in 2005, I spent the summer in Turkey as a counselor at Turkish space camp. So, I spent some time over there and was sort of taken with some of the sounds I'd heard over there. And at the time I actually bought a Balama, but I couldn't get it home to the States, in an effective way. So I ended up leaving it. And when we started working on Hades, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and amass some sort of Mediterranean textures. Yeah. And that was one of the first things that came to mind. Just given how interesting it sounds and my experience with it before. So yeah, that was sort of my main way in. And I tried to let those textures do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of creating a particular vibe of a particular place. And tried to not worry too much about making it authentic beyond that, just because sure. I find some of the most fascinating stuff is when people take an instrument and use it out of context or use it in a way that is not normally used. So mm-hmm. I kind of, I paid some attention. I wanted to make sure that it felt that the vibe was that I was getting from the music was the one I wanted to achieve. But at the same time, I tried not to worry about it too much.
I dig it.
Yeah. That's, it's always that's kind of, I gotta say, that's like a weird origin story, but an interesting one nonetheless. But yeah,
you didn't also teach at Turkish space camp for a summer? Weird.
I didn't. But,
I thought everyone did.
Yeah, that's the new one on me. But I actually did have a question regarding because you this is sort of changing the subject a little bit, but regarding because you voice acted in this game. You did the main character and you did Skelly as well, I believe. But you didn't start voice acting in Supergiant games until Pyre, I don't think, right? So
correct, yeah.
Steve and Bobby and I are all music people. Bobby's actually also in VO, but how does one go from? But they're pretty different recording VO from music. So I'm curious, what made you want to transition, or do both, or what made you want to take that leap?
I mean, I think more than a desire to do it, it was more like practicality, because we were trying to expand our cast. We always work with Logan Cunningham, who's this incredible actor who we worked with forever, and I grew up with Logan. And when we were casting Pyre, we wanted to have a larger cast than we'd ever had before, and we were sort of trying to tap all the resources available to us for people that we knew and actors, like how are we going to cast this in a way that makes sense. And I ended up doing a couple of characters in Pyre, and it was, we all felt, well, it's a little more forgiving because nobody's speaking English except Logan. So the performances don't really, you won't be able to tell if they're not that good, so there was pretty low stakes for me doing it, I felt. Mm-hmm. And then for, when it came time to cast Zagreus, we hadn't really, we got some auditions and we hadn't really found the thing that we all kind of had in mind. So I just kind of recorded some scratch in a way that I sort of thought was what we were going for. And I was like, well, let me just try this to see what we can get out of it. And the response ended up on team being really good, and we stuck it in the game and people started liking it, and we got a couple more auditions and nothing kind of beat it really. So I just kind of defaulted into doing Zagreus. And that was it. Yeah. I mean, that being said, I think we were aware of the sort of logistical advantages of having the main character be voiced by somebody on team, where we could make a change. Greg could write some lines about it and we could implement it in 30 minutes or what, you know what I mean? It was the turnaround was instantaneous. Mm-hmm. One thing that happened was we released, this was during early access. We released, I think it was maybe the second early access update where we added the heat system, the Pact of Punishment, to the game. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that people we were like, well, people don't really have a reason to engage with this. So we added, in a matter of a day and a half or something, we added all the, Jen did the art for all the Skelly statues, and Greg wrote 100 lines between 50 lines between Zag and Skelly, which I happen to voice both characters. And so we just like recorded all that instantly, like turned it around. It was like a day. We got all that stuff patched, like we in like a YOLO patch into the game. And that was, so that's an example of the sort of practical benefit to having, constant access to your main actor.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that, because that was one of the main questions I had for today, was the voiceover record process. And you guys have a really good advantage of having people just around. Like you have yourself, you have Logan, you have Greg coming in for Hypnos, which is really cool. In terms of reaching out and recording outside talent, outside of that, like casting people outside of all of that. What is usually the process of the casting process, the scheduling, recording of those guys, and how much of that got affected when COVID-19 came around, the pandemic hit? Because I know you guys probably had to do a lot of stuff. You built your own vocal ISO booth. How did that affect those outside talent when that happened?
Good questions. I'll start with the first part. I think for casting, we tend to try and utilize our network of people we know, or people who are recommended to us by people we know. And we sort of try to audition all those people first. I mean, the actor who plays Zeus and Chaos taught high school drama to Logan and I. He's like our high school drama teacher. So there's a lot of fun stuff there like that. Just people we've worked with in the past who we were like, who would be good for this part, and we think of specific people and try to reach out to them. And then once we sort of tap that whole network, and once we've tapped everybody on the team who might be able to do it, everybody we know who might be able to do it, then Greg took to like hashtag, Twitter voice actor or whatever, voice actor on Twitter, and just found people who we thought were good. I know we found Marin Miller that way, and we found a couple other people that way, Lila Berzins, who were awesome. both incredible. We've and some of them are friends of friends, like Avalon Penrose is sort of a friend of the studio, and so we found some people that way as well. As far as when COVID hit, So basically before COVID, what was happening was any actor who had a solid home setup, they could record themselves at home and I would direct remotely. And any actor who did not, we would bring into the studio and they would record in my vocal booth that I had next to my desk in the studio. So when COVID hit, we weren't bringing anybody in anywhere. So we just like sent everybody snowballs basically. And just like, it's just like, I mean, I probably could have approximated a more practical approximate rig to what we were using in the studio, but it's like we had to just like keep going. We had thousands of lines left to record. It's like, we got to get everybody these mics, and like shipping was all weird for the beginning of the pandemic. So like, we're just like, so we're just like, we just got to order this stuff like right now and get it shipped to everybody who's got more lines to record and needs a mic. So we did that as fast as we could. And I was just like, you know what, I'll deal with the sort of quality difference in post and try to match it as best I can.
Right.
So, I took all my gear home from the office and I put together a vocal booth in my house. And that's how I ended up recording the rest of my stuff. And everybody who was already remote was able to continue to record the normal way. And everybody else, we had to pivot a little bit.
Yeah. So for the most part, like, doing stuff remotely and things like that was already sort of a major part of it. So it was kind of like here and there things had to be adjusted. But for the most part, things felt somewhat consistent, since everything is still kind of like mostly remote. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were a handful of actors that we had to send stuff to, but a lot of other people, like Logan, he records from his apartment in New York all the time, and then that's how I record him always. So that didn't change, Right. But some of the way we recorded some of the actors had to change a little bit. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Actually, on the note of voice acting, I noticed that like everybody sounds, it's got the kind of like historical, everybody sounds kind of British. thing going on. You ever mess around with Greek accents, or did that
Well,
just
so
never
yeah,
occur to you?
we thought about it, and I just have on a like a intellectual level, it strikes me as weird when you have a game set in a place where they speak a particular language, but then those characters speak English with that accent. I always find that kind of weird because.
Sorry, I think I remember.
You know what I mean? It's like
yeah, I remember talking to Ryan, being like, when I first played Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
we're in France. Why are these people speaking with British accents? Oh. They took the effort to give Ezio the Italian in Assassin's Creed 2. So it was just bizarre.
So our take on it was we considered the Greek accent thing and thought it didn't make sense for the thing we were trying to do because we wanted these people to speak with a native accent, meaning an accent that people who speak English natively have in some way or another, because they are speaking their, maybe they're speaking Greek or whatever they're speaking in ancient Greece to each other, but they speak it natively and fluently. So we didn't want them to have a sort of a second language accent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the delineation between the sort of Greeks and gods, Olympians who have the sort of British accent, and then the sort of underworld people who have the American accent. Part of that is, we in sort of classical portrayals, modern portrayals of ancient Greece, when I think about that, all the gods sort of have this British, sort of heightened British, like Western fantasy British accent, and that's, we wanted to sort of play into that expectation, into that image. I certainly had, and maybe, I assume some other people did as well. And then sort of subvert that and mess with it. And the idea to have there be some sort of delineation there kind of made sense to us, between the people of the surface and the Olympians and the people of the underworld.
Man, that makes sense.
I can also probably think about like the British. I'm not sure. Part of me thinks of the British accent thing also comes probably from like the fact that probably most classicists are probably British, or all the stuff's at the British Museum.
Yeah.
Rosetta Stone included. So you can probably, or that between that and theater actors, going back to the Shakespearean tradition, the Dionysian tradition of theater. So I can sort of make that mental leap of like, I even did, like, you're right. I was watching one of the Iliad adaptations a while back, and like all the gods, are British. And most of them are British, actually, because it's a British show. But like, it's part of the high drama of it all.
Yeah, so, exactly. And that's sort of what we were trying to play into.
Yeah.
I had a couple more. Yeah, I had a couple more voiceover questions. The sheer amount of stuff that you guys record based on like the different conditions of things or progressions in the story, there's just so much happening. I remember that was one of the big, like, high praises of the game is the amount of effort that went into making unique lines for all of these situations. I have to imagine that that's a tough time to play test, especially when you get into things that have tougher or have more very specific conditions for you to unlock it. Can you talk about that sort of implementation and the play testing process of those voice lines?
Yeah. So, I mean, Greg did all the VO implementation himself, and I do not envy him that. It's a hefty task. And in general, if there was a specific scenario that had to occur for a particular voice line to play, you could kind of recreate it, or there were sometimes ways to test that stuff. Sometimes there were not easy ways to test that stuff, and there was stuff that made it like pretty late where nobody noticed anything, and I was doing my like all day playing the game for a whole week where I was like, wait a minute, I heard this line on my last run. That shouldn't have, because I happened to know, because I recorded all 20 lines in this set of 20 lines that are supposed to playlist through before you get any repeated ones, so I happened to notice that and write a bug for it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it is pretty hard to test some of that stuff. I think part of the thing that is cool about early access is we were able to have a lot of people playing the game and dedicating a lot of hours to it. And sometimes people would, be tickled by a particular VO line that they heard when some really specific scenario happened or responded to them. You know, Meg said something about them turning off all their mirror upgrades and then coming back to her, you know what I mean? And she like made a comment about it.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. I think the early access thing and having a large kind of player community helped us find some of that stuff.
Yeah,
that would have been hard to find otherwise.
I watched all of Danny O'Dwyer's no-clip documentaries with you guys, and that was always the fun thing to watch, is you guys watching Twitch streamers, negging them or cheering them on, while at the same time being like, "Oh shit, that's a bug.
We got to fix that.
We got to get that out of there." Amir going like, "Release the patch, push the patch."
Yeah, push the patch, push it live. No, yeah, it's so funny because that's what, you know how whenever you work on something, like the second you show it to someone is when you notice all of the problems with it, you know?
Exactly.
So watching streams is like like that. You know, it's like
see the tiny little wrinkle in the corner. You're just eyes darting back and forth between the audience and that. Like, are they noticing it? Are they noticing it?
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to have like, you know, a couple of years of that before the game came out in 1.0. So we were able to notice a lot of things that we wanted to fix and have time to fix them.
That's amazing. And I have one more voiceover question before we want to move on to a different subject. Talking about the uniqueness and all the conditions. This is just a fun question I'm curious about, is based on things you need to do, conditions you need to meet, or things you have to unlock story-wise, what is the hardest voice line for players to discover in the game?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, dang.
I don't know. I mean, I think one that's pretty tough. One that comes to mind is we have a special interaction with the last boss where if you get to the final boss without any boons at all, like you sell all your boons, you just don't have any boons when you get to the last boss.
Yeah.
Then there's a special interaction, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to get there with a totally vanilla Zagreus.
Right. No, I saw a YouTube video where someone discovered that. Yeah. That's and again, I love the attention to detail and the amount of effort you put into to basically just like anticipating things that players would run into, or the things they would try to do, either to challenge themselves or to try and like break the game in weird ways, or to create those kinds of challenges that you guys are able to sort of anticipate those and write dialogue and have character moments around all that is really impressive.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's really fun for us, I think, to find and try to put that stuff in. And a lot of times it'll be Greg and I sitting there like, oh, you know what? He needs to say something. Like we'll watch a stream and be like, oh man, somebody should say something about that. Like Zagreus should have a comment about this, you know?
Right.
And, or us kind of going back and forth about, oh man, there should be like a fishing with dad encounter. Like, of course there should be like a, you know, and how can we do that? Like the lowest scope way we can put that in, to try to just get it in there. And so we came up with a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of excuses to put in new lines. Another really hard one, I mean, Hypnos will comment on when you die an extraordinary amount of times. Hypnos will have special lines about it. And so I think the maximum, I don't know what number it is, but the maximum one of those is like you'd have to play a very long time to get it.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome. That actually it kind of makes me think of when what's really telling is, I don't know if you've ever done this, and forgive me if I didn't do enough research on that, but speaking on watching people play your game, what I found in like watching developers watch people play their game is what's really telling is not just watching people who either have experience as testers or people who are just, you know, really in depth, sort of, you know, people who are taking the early access really seriously. But watching speedrunners is an incredibly informative experience. Did you do any of that? Yeah, just watch people just
absolutely.
Break the hell out of
I mean, you know, there's a thing.
Is that like? But do you like? Are you like? Is that like? Is it like, oh man, or is it more of a oh man? Is it more urgent, or is it deflating, or is it both?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool to see speedrunners just bust the heck out of the game and really like pound their way through it. It's really impressive. You know, I was a fan of, you know, there was a thing going on called the Hermes Cup, where it was like a speedrunner tournament for Hades. That was really cool, and I managed to watch some of, and I guest commentated once or twice. And yeah, it's a ton of fun, and I think it's really valuable for the designers to see that stuff, because sometimes I think there are things that they didn't account for that they want to implement to cater to the speedrunning community, or things where it's like, well, this, if we did that, then it would sort of defeat some of the randomness of the, so but certainly, like, we want to acknowledge the importance of engaging with a game like this in that particular way. So yeah, I think there were a lot of valuable lessons to glean from watching a speedrun. In general, the audio is not the main focus in a speedrun, so I don't have as much, I think, to learn from a speedrun, because skip it and mashing through all the dialogue and stuff. And I'm not offended. I totally understand. That's the name of the game.
That would be rad, though, if some audio file, like, they're able to find something in the programming that an audio file allows them to jump through levels.
Yeah.
There's an audio glitch that lets them do that. That would be really funny.
If anybody, unless anybody's got like a talking point, I can open up the field to the comments sort of thing, if anyone wants me to do that.
Yeah, works for me.
Also, am I lagging out super hard? I feel like I'm lagging out super hard.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah,
you asked him a question a while ago, and then your face just
turn off my DOS.
was there waiting for an answer while you were still talking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's you'll say something.
All right, hang on a second. I gotta
and visually, yeah, he'll say something visually, and then much later he'll say it with audio.
It's like Kung Pao into the Fist, where the dog is just like barking, and eventually it's just one bark.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to just take your video off,
you
you could do that.
try turning off video. That might do it.
Did I fix it?
I don't think it did anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just.
You could try. Yeah.
Is it still going?
Yeah, I mean,
we can still hear you.
We hear you.
All right. How's this? Is this working?
It seems to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Just the video's lagging, I guess, or I don't know.
Yeah, we at least can't.
Well, either way,
it's
your video is probably eating up bandwidth.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sucks because I just got nice new internet.
He was boasting about it too.
I was boasting about it to Steve before. I was like,
"It's gonna be great. We're gonna have new internet.
It's gonna be great."
The hubris, Ryan. The hubris.
I used to joke about my like crappy internet, and I was like, "Oh man, it's gonna be sick." And then this happens, and I was like, "Well, so much for that." So yeah, I'm not gonna shout out the company that I have because I don't. Should I name and shame? I don't know, but give me a refund.
Yeah. Are you keeping this in?
Hell yeah, we're keeping it. This is important.
Warts and all.
Need to know, man.
Yeah.
The people need to know. But yeah, that's all right. Well, hopefully I didn't disrupt the flow of the conversation too much. It seems like it was fine, I guess. But,
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. I guess if anyone wants to, if you're down to open up the field to the comment section, we could do that. But
cool.
Yeah, want to do that. All right. Well, I kind of already asked. I picked some greatest hits. I kind of try to. I was talking to Steve about this before. I lecture Steve on it like every time before we do a podcast. I'm like, I don't want to ask ordinary mundane questions. I don't want to ask what are your influences. I don't want to ask that stuff. So I tried to avoid some of those, so I kind of asked the first one, the about sort of leading us into the voice acting thing. So I'll just go to the next one. Someone asked, I'm gonna kind of put a spin on this one because it's kind of straightforward, and I don't see a lot of people talk about this stuff in a technical way in interviews, so I'm gonna spin it a little bit. So somebody asked, "How the fuck are you so good at singing?" I've been listening to the Lament of Orpheus for like a month straight, and those heavenly high notes still get me every time. Well, so I mean, yeah, it's a very nice thing to say, but I am actually curious when it comes to to singing. I don't know. It's a very you do a lot of falsetto stuff.
Yeah.
You do. Is that more your style? Do you think that lends itself more to the tone of the game, or I mean, you're a little more throatier and stuff in Bastion sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, does it kind of, I guess, how do you determine, how you're going to deliver something as a singer?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for Hades specifically, I made the determination that Orpheus had to only sing in falsetto. That was a creative choice I had made at the beginning, because I was trying to think, so what, the situation is I'm trying to write and sing as if I am the greatest musician that ever existed. That's like, you can't really just attack that straight on. You have to find an angle in. And for me, the sort of, well, he would have like an angelic, cherubic sounding voice. So I just went, oh, it's got to be falsetto. I kind of thought about like Tom York's falsetto on like the In Rainbows album in particular. He really, you know what I mean?
Sure,
like that kind of thing was like in my brain when I was doing it. As far as like how I'm able to sing high, it's just honestly, I took voice lessons for a number of years, singing lessons, and I've been working on it sort of since I was a kid. I started singing young when I was about 5, and I did musical theater and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where like, you practice and you try to find new space for your range and try to push your range. And I'm always interested in, I'll write something that's like a little bit outside my comfort zone, and then I'll have to learn how to sing it. Like, oh man, this is higher than I can sing. And then all of a sudden I figure out how to do it. And then it's like, oh, I can sing that high now. And now let me see if I can sing higher. And some of it comes from listening to like a lot of artists that I love, like The Darkness and like people like that who like have just impossibly high voices. I'm like, I'm going to try and sing this,
Yeah.
And you try to sing along in the car to like All Love,
and like figure out how to do it, and that's really helped, actually, listening to people with really high registers and just trying to figure out how in my voice I can get there comfortably in a relaxed way. It's not hurting myself, So from a technical perspective, it's all about placement and relaxation and all that stuff that they think about when you're singing.
Right on.
I have to ask, because like L'Orfeo is like one of my favorite operas from the Monteverdi. Was that a factor at all? I'm just throwing it out there.
It actually wasn't. Like I became aware of that after I'd already done all the Orpheus stuff, and it seems like a cool. I mean, I probably should have looked at it, but
it's okay. It's the fun part about myths and legends. They can just spread their own little.
I know,
interpretations.
All sorts of,
just going through some more of the questions here. This is kind of goes off of what we were talking about voice acting, and we covered a little bit of the development of how you became, got into voice acting for sort of practical reasons for the most part, it seems like. But they're asking, what have you learned as a voice actor and musician from your earlier work in Bastion through Transistor and Pyre, and now with Hades? What growth have you experienced that you didn't expect? And is there anything you expected to be better at that still sucks?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like one of the things I've gotten a lot better at overall is just sort of time management, which is like a kind of a boring answer, but really it's like I accomplished just by volume quite a bit more stuff working on Hades than I did on any of the other projects, in terms of just tasks I did,
Right.
And I think a lot of that just comes down to trying to utilize my time more efficiently. One of the things I like about working in 3 different disciplines, sound effects, voiceover, and music, is that when I'm working on something and I feel a little bit stuck, or I'm not progressing as much as I would like to, I can sort of take a creative break by just switching gears to other work. So I can sort of give myself a mental break in that particular part of my brain by doing something else, and it'll sort of percolate in the background while I'm switched to something else. So that's something I feel like I've gotten a lot better at over time. I think, it's interesting, the voice acting stuff, it was something that I didn't have a particular ambition to do. And the voice direction was something that I've been doing the whole time since Bastion. And I feel like I've grown a lot as a director. After, I took I think it was after Transistor, Logan and I both took a voiceover masterclass with Jennifer Hale, who's sort of an illustrious, awesome voice actor. She's incredible, and she does the voice of the Commander Shepard, the female Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect, all that stuff. She does everything. and she was great. And that was really eye-opening for me. Just sort of learning how to prepare sides for auditions and figuring out like how much information is the right amount of information for an actor, and figuring out, how to, as a voice actor, one of the responsibilities you have that you don't have in other mediums is sort of generating everything about where you are, what your character looks like, who you're talking to, how far away they are, all that stuff. You have to like invent all of that. Mm-hmm. So that's a really interesting thing. And just thinking about it in that way really made me, I think, a better director of voice actors, and trying to suss out what a particular actor needs in terms of, some actors definitely do not want you to give them a line reading. Some actors really do want you to give them a line reading if there's something specific that you want. And there's all sorts of different ways that are sort of that actors, I'm there to try and do my best to support the actor in getting to the performance that all of us are into. Mm-hmm. And every actor has a different path toward that, I think. So I think figuring that out, working as we expanded our cast, and I worked with more actors who were not Logan, because we had our own weird, thing that we did, and
right,
and it worked for us. But trying to sort of branch out, and that's something that I didn't necessarily expect to do was to work with a bunch of other voice actors, just because, it's like, oh, we'll just work with Logan forever only, Right. And so that's something that's surprising, that surprised me, I think. And something that I'm still not good at. I would say, I've now worked with, in some capacity, worked with like a small orchestra on a couple of tracks on Hades, which was amazing, but I'm still not, I don't really write or read music particularly well. I'm very bad at that, and it's not something that's part of my process. So maybe that's something that I assumed I would, like, if I ever needed to branch out into that area, would do some more of that or get better at that, but I still haven't bothered.
Austin never tried to drive
Steve
that
is
into
also
you.
like that, and
me too.
Yeah, Steve and I work on some music stuff together, and I do all that for him.
Yeah.
But it can definitely be a big pain, even if you do know how to do it and stuff. But let's move along here. And what else do we have here? We have okay. This is the top question, and I initially didn't really like it, because I was like, LMAO Reddit moment. But you know what? It's kind of a wild card question, and I kind of respect it now.
All right.
And it's just, how do you handle being so awesome?
That's a funny
time
question.
to find out if you're a narcissist, Darren.
That's a funny
spot.
That's a funny question. To certainly, like, having a kid it makes you not feel like you're that awesome. You know what I mean? Like, It's a very humbling having a kid. So however awesome someone might think who's a fan or something, I just, that's who you are, who your family sees you as, more than anything else. So,
it's about family. And that's what makes it so important.
So anyway, no, I mean, I try to take all that stuff with a grain of salt, and I really am appreciative of when people enjoy the music and think the stuff that we do is cool, and that's awesome for me. But I mean, I tend not to think of myself that way.
All right, fair enough. I hope they're satisfied with that answer.
Yeah.
I certainly was. So,
okay, good.
Answer parenthood.
I know. I like the direction of it, because we've been doing a lot of tech talk the whole time. How does this work, and that can get, I don't know. It can, for people who like us, who are dorks about it and like it, that can be pretty interesting. But or for the diehard fans, like the people who posted and stuff, that they definitely. But we like to have a little bit of a conversational element to it,
for sure.
Also, so So on that note, I mean, you got any parking tickets? Like, what's up with that?
Nope, not lately. I haven't had any parking tickets for quite some time. Although
probably not going anywhere. Yeah.
Not one day. I was briefly. I lived with my brother in Santa Monica for like a few months, and there was one day where I got 2 parking tickets in the same day. Like, I parked in a spot. I was like 5 minutes late for moving my car. I had a parking ticket, and then I moved it to another. It was street cleaning. Moved it to another spot. that then I didn't notice later that day was street cleaning there and got another parking ticket. It was very annoying.
Oh man.
I mean,
Yeah, dude, Santa Monica's brutal.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they'll do
Awful.
that to
Yeah.
you.
Those are the only parking tickets I've ever gotten in my whole life. 2 in one day.
Pretty clean record. I
Not
like
too
that.
bad. Yeah.
But well, wait, you used to be, or wait, you're in the Bay Area now,
Yeah.
right? You used to be in New York. We're not going to dox you, don't worry.
No, it's
We're
fine.
not
Yeah,
gonna
I was in New York for 12 years or so after, like, I went there for college and then stayed, and then moved back here after Transistor.
Okay, actually, that brings up an interesting question because Bobby and I both have family from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
We're both from here, California.
Yeah.
But so I kind of have a question: is what vibe do you kind of prefer? Because on the East Coast, people tend to be like less flaky and a little more like taking things seriously, but they're also kind of have a stick up their ass a little bit. But here, like, here that's like the opposite of that. It's like, okay, people are a little more chilled out, which is nice, but also it's like, oh, they can be kind of, kind of spacing out and stuff, and into in their own kind of world and stuff. So I don't know. What do you kind of vibe with there?
I mean, I think at different times in my life, I valued different things. Part of what was so exciting to me about New York when I wanted to move out there, I was in high school and I had visited, my brother was living in New York and I visited him and I was like, oh man, this place is awesome. It's like nonstop incredible. It's like buzzing all the time. There's this incredible energy. It's like, I was a night owl. So I was like, oh man, I could like go out in the middle of the night and like walk around and do stuff and go to a place and get food. And and I was really excited by all the sort of the concentration of culture and excitement and energy and all that stuff at that time. So that's really what drew me there. But then when I had a kid, all the stuff that drew me there initially, it was like all negatives,
Right.
It's like all the same things that were attractive to me were like, man, I'm going to bed at 9 now. I don't need a all night thing. I just need the car alarms to stop going off in the street so my kid can go to sleep,
Yeah.
So having more space and having, your priorities change as you sort of move through stages of life. So yeah, I wanted sort of a little bit more of an approximation of the sort of childhood I had, which I thought was nice, all things considered.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine parenthood changes quite a bit about a person.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are parents, besides, here on our side of things. But I mean, I guess that's also because music. You make a lot of noise doing that stuff. I mean, I know you got the electric kit, you've got the keys, and you've got like a workspace now at Supergiant.
Yeah.
But you used to work out of your own place. Did that change how you worked on music, having a kit?
The biggest change was just working during work hours and stopping afterwards. Was the biggest change to my process. I mean, because mostly the stuff I'm doing doesn't make a lot of actual noise, because I'm, the loudest thing I'm generally doing is hitting the pads on an electronic kit, because a lot of the guitars and the basses and stuff I record pretty much direct, and I use software amps. I have amps that I'll use if I need feedback or something specific, but in general, I'm just going straight into my signal path there. I have a little preamp, but I'm going pretty much straight into the audio interface after that. So it's not, in terms of what I'm doing, the process hasn't changed much, but certainly the way in which I approach it in terms of scheduling my day has changed, because I try to dedicate time to not doing work every single day, which I didn't used to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, with the time management, basically, is just that. I feel, I struggle with that a lot. I recently got diagnosed with ADHD. So like, I wondered why my time management sucked my whole life, and now like had the chance to work on it. But I feel very seen by your answers. So I'd like to thank you for bringing that, for bringing visibility to time management as a thing, because people often overlook that.
Yeah.
But that's got to be weird, working a job that isn't really considered a 9 to 5 with a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's I guess, do you I don't know. Damn, I don't know where I was going with that. I've like these guys, like Bobby and Steve were not expecting me to just start riffing after all the like tech talk and music stuff. I was like, there's gotta be some humanity here. I don't want it to be like,
no work,
tell us about your
work-life balance and work-life balance and parenthood, and all those are the very important questions. And
is the work-life balance thing harder to do in COVID or easier, or are you like, oh, I get to spend more time with my kids now? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a little easier. I would take the I would take the BART train into San Francisco. I live in the East Bay, and when I was working out of the studio, and the commute's not terrible, but it's a couple hours in total, round trip, and so it's a couple hours I get to spend at home that I don't spend doing something else, and I get to exercise for some of that time, and I get to hang out with my kid for the rest of the time. You know what I mean? So it's not that aspect of it I've enjoyed, just having a little bit more time in the day. That's not sort of eaten up by a commute. I mean, I do, I would like do stuff on the commute. I would like play a game or watch a thing or whatever, but listen to music. But it's nice having dedicated, having a little bit more time to sort of dedicate to other stuff.
That actually, sorry, we're like going on a whole parenting thing right now, which is like, because I find it fascinating. It's like, I think it's a lot bigger than people really realize.
Yeah.
And well, I don't know, because obviously you have a vision for your kid, right? Like you want to see them thrive, and I mean, ideally you do. I imagine you personally want to see them have a good life and and thrive and lead a fulfilling existence. But you can't control everything. You got to let them be their own person and figure things out themselves. So I don't know what kind of things do you envision for their future? What do you think is like I don't know, the good, what would you like to sort of instill in them to take along with them?
Gosh, I see a lot of myself in my kid, and he's a lot. He reminds me a lot of me as a kid, if for better or worse. And he's an awesome kid, and he's got a lot of stuff that he excels at. And my one sort of, my hope for him is that he's better able to develop early on like a better work ethic than I had. Because I found that because some stuff came easy to me to be okay, to be like decent at something without a lot of, I did not have a good growth mindset,
Right.
where you practice and get better at things like that. It's like if I didn't feel like I was good enough at something, I was like, I'll just give that up,
Right.
So I want to, one thing I would like for him to achieve that it took me much longer to develop that mindset than I would have liked is to be able to like understand like, oh, when you practice something, you improve at it,
Right. So that mindset and, that journey that you had doing that, I mean, this is a little bit subjective, but I mean, you seem like a successful guy. You've made some, you've worked on award-winning games. You've made some great stuff. I mean, yeah, you've done concerts to people who, care about your music and buy your music and stuff. So do you think that maybe that thing that you struggled with, that journey was part of what attributed to your success? Or do you think that, if I had figured that earlier, I'd be in a way better place right now? Or I don't know.
It's hard to say. I mean, I think it's, I don't regret in terms of where I'm at in my life. I don't regret choices that I've made professionally or personally. But certainly like it wouldn't have hurt, I don't think, to understand like, had I dedicated more time to X, Y, or Z, I would now be this much better at X, Y, or Z, or I'd be fluent in another language, or I'd be whatever, you know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. Like I just think if I had realized that earlier, I would have maybe been more willing to dedicate like 20 minutes a day to something that I could then, be awesome at later,
Right. Okay. So yeah, I guess it is a little bit of a, looking back, I guess it's a little bit of a what if question.
Yeah, it's just a hindsight situation. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, questions seem interesting at the time, but hindsight is 2020. But I mean, I don't want to keep you, man. If any other guys want to say something, if you're busy, I don't know. Is anybody else got anything or?
Would you like to
just
come
happy I
back
was
and
able to-
you know?
Yeah, I'm just happy I was able to take time off work to do this. This was really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty big fans. I mean, Bobby is like probably the biggest one. He's played all the games and watched
Cool.
the documentaries. I've watched some. I watched your part of the No Clip and Jen's part.
Yeah.
Also, and those are very fascinating. And
I'm just a Greco-phile.
Nice.
Steve is just a Greco-phile, so we're like gotta have Steve commenting on that stuff.
Awesome.
But yeah, man. I guess what we'll close it off with, if nobody else has anything else, is just from the comment section. I was gonna pick out like one or two comments that said this, but it's just I just decided I guess I'll paint a more general picture of there's just a lot of appreciation, and people seem to really be touched by what you do and really enjoy it, and they just wanted the community at large just really wants to thank you, and and we want to thank you for coming on and doing this, and giving us some insights. So,
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, if the opportunity ever arises or something ever happens, we'd love to have you back, and if possible. Sweet. But anybody else got anything? Anybody? We're good. I think we'll call it there.
I'm happy.
All right. Well, Darren, thanks so much again.
Thank you so
really
much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Have a great one.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you.
So do I hang up first or?
You hang up first.
You're the host now.
I'm going to hit a stop on my DAW here.